even after my 4,000 years of playing RPGs, I still am of the opinion that hit points can sure be weird. And I'm interested in what you think about hit points in your favorite RPGs. Now, I've been musing about hit points because I've been reading Iron Kingdoms, and I'll do a review of this next week. And Iron Kingdoms does hit points in the way that I like them, but more about that a bit later. See, hit points are weird, but why are they weird? They will cause some cinematic problems on occasion. Now, let's say you're describing the scene, there's a combat going on, and that goblin, he swipes out with his rusty-ass short sword, and he hits someone for 6 damage. Now, a 10th level fighter, that's no damage at all. I mean, the 10th level fighter probably blocks the short sword, and the 6 damage equates to his hand stinging, like when you hit a baseball sometimes. You know, that's the extent of the damage that a 10th level fighter is taking. Now, however, a 1st level wizard takes 6 damage, and he's the proud new owner of a gladius right through his sternum. Now, these subjective use of hit points in combat scenes actually ends up being okay, because you know, the 10th level character in the combat, well, it makes sense that he's going to take less damage. He's 10th level, he knows more, he's been through many a battle, and that 1st level wizard, he's so unused to fighting on the fields of glory that he just goes, "Roo, roo," and he wants to get a better look at all those swords that are coming straight at his face. Now, the problem occurs in non-combat damage when using subjective hit points. For example, someone falling off a cliff, or the ranger running through the burning forest and he's scooping up all the fuzzy animals to save them, or someone is being dragged behind a galloping horse and they're taking 1d8 damage per round. Or, you know, something like this. See, in the previous example, if the 10th level fighter gets kicked into a campfire and takes, you know, d10 damage, he's got some soot on his sleeve, and the 1st level wizard gets kicked into a campfire and he's fried to a crunchy crisp. This starts to strain against the logic of the situation. Both these characters have been kicked into a campfire. It's not really subjective anymore. Speaking of more environmental damage, that 10th level fighter could get set on fire by hobgoblin witch hunters, and he's taking d6 damage per round, and he has so many hit points he's just going to go out and do his grocery shopping, because he says, "I don't let 1d6 damage per round get in the way of a man and his Funyuns, you dig?" So he just goes about his day even though he's on fire. Now, in a previous video, Captain Gothnog, fellow YouTuber, had a really good idea about, you know, when you're taking damage like falling, fire, acid, this sort of thing. Those things do constitution damage. And that's a good idea because it puts, you know, mortals and humans on a relatively even footing, probably ranging from constitutions of 10 to 18. So if someone takes 2d6 constitution damage, just about any human is going to be in a bad way. So the relatively even footing, these are the hit points I like. A person is sort of going to be in this range, and yes, some people are going to be tougher than others, but no one is going to do their grocery shopping while on fire. Now, to paraphrase the comedian Ron White, when he's talking about hurricanes, he said, "It doesn't matter that the wind is blowing, it's what the wind is blowing. If you get hit by a Volvo, it doesn't matter how many push-ups you did that morning." So, what games do hit points in the way that I like? Aforementioned Iron Kingdoms does it. Hit points are low, and as they start going down, certain aspects of your character start becoming debilitated, and you have to react to this in the combat. Shadowrun has an interesting combination of hit points and wound levels, like World of Darkness. Essentially, Shadowrun has low hit points, and every 3 hit points that you take, you get a -1 dice to all actions. So that works out pretty well too. Within the Ring of Fire, the game by Ander Wood, has hit points the way I like it as well. The hit points are low. They're based off of how tough a character is, so it's not subjective. And when a character starts losing their hit points, they start being debilitated, and combat becomes tougher. It's always been strange in D&D when you kind of go from 60 to 0, not 0 to 60, but 60 to 0, where you're either fine and you're chugging along, or you have fallen over and now it's, now you're in danger. I've experimented in D&D with splitting hit points into fourths. No matter how many hit points you have, I split them into fourths, and every fourth that you have lost, you're gaining -1 to all actions. It works out all right, but it's still a bit of a pain. Now, hit points and magical healing have always gone hand in hand, and I'll probably dedicate a different video to magical healing because it also raises some strange cinematic questions, and I'm wondering how you out there will handle it. For example, someone casts, a 3rd level cleric casts Cure Light Wounds, and he casts it on Thorgrimmar, the mightiest of barbarians. Now that's going to heal about a paper cut on Thorgrimmar because he's got 124 hit points. He's the mightiest barbarian. Now that same Cure Light Wounds from the same 3rd level cleric, you cast that on a 2nd level wizard, and his arm is going to grow back because it got yanked off by a troll earlier. The D8 plus 3 hit points that guy heals is going to be a lot more healing than Thorgrimmar is going to receive. Why is the spell strangely less effective on Thorgrimmar? Does his bad attitude offend Lathander and the healing just doesn't work as well? It's kind of weird. But healing is neither here nor there. We're talking about hit points. And so the way I like hit points is when they feel real, they feel visceral, they feel gritty, and when they start depleting, you start feeling that noose tightening around your character's neck as things become more dangerous and more desperate. That's how I like hit points to be run, because that's how I like the combats to be run in my RPGs. So now I posit to you the question, how do you like hit points going on in your RPGs?